I'm a walking time bomb. I'm gonna go off someday, somewhere, on somebody. The question is, upon whom?
Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're looking at documentaries that give insight into notable gangs of different kinds.
However, from what I've seen, it's clear that these women are unavoidably caught up in the gang culture.
Number 10, Ghosts of C Solay. Ghosts are pretty spooky, especially when referring to the secret military under Jean-Bertrand Aristide, Haiti's former leader. The film explores two siblings who ruled over these gangs and the political corruption they were entangled in. It also looks at the rap career dreams of one of its main characters. This gripping account is filmed with a camcorder, giving it an eerie vibe. Despite being unsettling at times, the music subplot adds a creative flair to the mix. We get a look into the hopes and dreams of the rappers featured. It definitely makes viewers think about the cost of chasing their dreams. Number 9, Gang War. Bangin In Little Rock. There's nothing little about the crime in this American city. The documentary takes a peek into the numerous gangs that were running much of Little Rock and the whirlwind of horror that follows suit.
All my G's have helped me out more than my family ever has in my whole life. And that's one reason I got quoted, is because I wanted family that I know is going to be with me no matter what I do.
And this is one documentary that had a definite impact upon the subject it presented. After its release, law enforcement took extra measures to address the problem and to find ways to minimize the violence and drug trafficking.
You know you didn't give birth for them to do stuff like this. It's not where they're supposed to be. I want him to know that I'll be there for him, but he's going to have to decide who his family is.
It's amazing to see what life was like before it did a complete 180 and changed for the better. Short and to the point, the film can be easily watched in your free time.
Right now, what's working in them is anger. I mean, you know, and these older guys are trying to keep them in check, but they're not out of their hoods. I mean, you know, this is people coming into their neighborhood, and this is a city. I mean, we ought to be able to go everywhere we, want to go, but I don't know.
Number 8, Flying Cut Sleeves. When it comes to the gangs in this documentary, it can be easy to forget that there's more than meets the eye.
There was always groups that protected their community. It was very territorial. The Savage Skulls lived in this area. The Ghetto Brothers lived in this area. Just sprouted up as a sort of like a defense for the particular communities.
This film follows almost 2 decades of a community dealing with the changing social climate of the Bronx. From the 1960s onward, the gangs were seen as criminals in the news. As presented in this film, the gangs tried to help people, not hurt them.
Those that knew us, that we had to interact with, they loved us. We used to get up in the mornings, go to their house, drink coffee, eat. They used to bring us food during the day, during the evenings.
This demonstrates how easily the media can warp narratives. Even better, viewers get to connect with the families of these teenagers and empathize with them. Since it spans a long period of time, it's awesome to grow with the members profiled and see what they're up to over 20 years later.
You have to look at where these kids come from, why they do the things they do. You just don't, I don't know how I can get my point across, but you just don't get up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going to do with my life.
Number 7, Gulabi Gang. Anyone who fights for equality is a freaking hero. Instead of letting the government silence them, a band of ladies in India rose up to correct matters of injustice related to gender and social status.
ये संगठन बनाया गया है कि पहले नारी जागृत हों, इसलिए जरूरत थी कि गुलाबी गैंग बनना चाहिए, महिलाओं का एकता होना चाहिए. और हर गांव में संगठन होना चाहिए, गांव नहीं बचना चाहिए.
As this movie shows, when the world throws huge problems your way, it can feel hopeless at times. It's easy to think that there's nothing you can do.
लेकिन अभी तो मैं अकेली ही लड़ रही हूँ, अगर जरूरत है तो सबकी जरूरत है.
If this concept resonates with you, this movie's for you. The risks the women were willing to take are beyond inspiring. The team behind this masterpiece did an incredible job capturing their spirit and their accomplishments.
अच्छा, हमारा भी उद्देश्य है कि अपराधी बचे ना और गैर अपराधी फंसे. हमारा भी यही उद्देश्य है.
From the phenomenal editing to the incredible narrative, this award-winning documentary is a must-see. Number 6, The Fear of 13. American prisons are scary places to be in, especially when you're innocent. The film follows the real-life story of Nick Yaris, who was wrongly convicted and faced 22 years of imprisonment.
The worst part, and yet the best part of being in solitary confinement is time can be a blisteringly fast thing, where in the blink of an eye you can look and 10 years are gone from your life.
The storytelling is simply out of this world. We not only get to learn what life was like for him, but also what went down with the prison gangs he interacted with.
The shower was the most vulnerable time. If you're going to get somebody, that's the place to get them.
Viewers witness the trials and tribulations that come with navigating the power dynamics of these spaces. This is a refreshing take on documentaries because Yaris is the only person featured on screen for the entire duration.
I was happy on death row at times when I shouldn't have been. And it was only because I became comfortable with being who I was, finally in life.
Number 5, the 7-5. The NYPD's job is to fight crime. Catch the bad guys? Check. Make the city a safer place? Check. Unfortunately, this documentary exposes the immense corruption that can at times accompany law enforcement.
How many crimes and acts of corruption do you estimate you committed as a New York City police officer?
Hundreds.
The film is unique because when we think of gangs, we typically think of those against the law, not those who are a part of it.
Now we're dealing with a major drug organization and we're supposed to get systematic payoffs. There's no turning back. There's no becoming a cop again.
It really sheds light on the political turmoil in the biggest city in the United States. The 7-5 reminds us that not everything is what it seems. Guess this gives good cop, bad cop a whole new meaning.
He wanted that clout. He wanted to own cops.
Having cops gave him more power. Nobody can touch me. Nobody can touch my crew.
Number 4, Cartelland. Groups that are involved with drug trafficking are obviously super dangerous.
Nomás la voy a hacer hasta que Dios quiera. Hasta que Dios quiera, hasta ahí vamos a dejar de hacer drogas.
What makes this such a standout film is that it focuses more on those impacted by the drug industry than the cartels themselves. It centers on citizens on both sides of the US-Mexican border forming gangs that try to take down these armed crews.
Bring your asses down here. I'll take you out on a nickel tour in the middle of the frickin' night. And you tell me that it's safe and secure.
The grittiness and authenticity of this documentary is astounding. Going up against such powerful people is really brave. Who wouldn't feel inspired to fight for what they believe in after watching this? If you're looking for a compelling tale about taking matters into your own hands, look no further than this. Number 3, Martina Cole Girls and Gangs, LA. Girl groups are all the rage, in this case, literally. British author Martina Cole has done extensive research about gangs, especially in the London area. It's riveting to see her previous knowledge applied to this film set in California.
But what do the girls get out of being in a gang? You know, you feel safe, you're part of something. Do you think that's a big part of it?
Definitely, especially in some of the more violent gang areas.
It can be hard to understand how someone can commit heinous crimes. Luckily, this documentary searches for the answers by exploring how these violent bands form. Instead of villainizing the women, the director humanizes them.
Because you gonna get banged on regardless if you bang or not.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. We black and the Mexicans have grown up on us.
The viewers can sympathize with their struggles. This movie is fantastic because it explores the distinct problems that arise from being a female gang member.
It just makes you want to be like, damn. You know, like, I know there's a different type of lifestyle where you don't have to keep losing the people that you love.
Number 2, Cocaine Cowboys. Miami knows a thing or two about violence. This documentary centers on the different people involved with the Floridian coke epidemic of the 20th century.
The Colombians realized that they were giving up a large portion of the profit to people they really didn't have to give it up from.
They didn't need the Cuban as a middleman.
And they just bypassed the Cubans completely.
That toehold is what sprouted into the crazy 1980s here in Miami.
And no, we don't mean the soda. The excruciating details from former gang members is wild. But better yet, this film helps us understand the effects the war had on the economy. It really makes us see the extent people are willing to go to gain prosperity.
When you couple police corruption to corruption of lawyers and corruption of judges, you have no law.
Street gangs were only a part of the drug network, but they were key. With so many players in the mix, it can be easy to get confused. Instead, the narrative is simple to follow. It truly feels like you're right there with everyone on screen.
We would talk to them in a language that they understood. You come here and you do these things, we're going to arrest you, or we're going to kill you, or we're going to make your life a living hell. Unless you talk to us.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Crips and Bloods Made in America. Many documentaries about this topic focus on the connections within the gangs themselves. Sometimes they explore the group's relationship to civilians. This one is noteworthy because we get to discover the history of the two organizations.
With names like the Businessmen, the Gladiators, and the Slossons, black teenagers began forming their own street front fraternities.
Originating in a poverty-stricken area, The wealth disparity between the gangs and their surroundings are clear. Instead of focusing on the rivalry, the film prioritizes the mental health struggles that causes teens to join these gangs.
You have to be on your toes at all times, man, because anything at any time can happen to you.
Wait a minute, you can't have a heart?
No. You can have a heart, but you better not show it.
It's sort of never letting yourself be weak. Never letting yourself be seen as someone with feelings, emotions.
Narratives like these are crucial at highlighting the racial injustices African Americans face and the consequences of such injustices. Although it centers on the two gangs of one city, the ideas are universal.
Ultimately, this ain't the way that God or society intended it to be. So a lot of times, man, I know morally I'm a good individual, but sometimes I gotta put that moral state of mind behind me and become an animal.
Which of these gangs have you heard about? Let us know in the comments down below.
I'm stunned at the shit I'm getting involved in. It's surreal to me. I'm like almost outside my body. A month ago, 2 months ago, I was a regular cop, and now I'm a criminal.